Hey everyone, welcome to our special edition of a What's New webinar as we all get ready for back to school in 2025, designed just specially for our Canva education community. And today you'll get a first look at our latest and greatest features and learn how to put them to use in your classrooms. Just a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be recorded and will be available both on our YouTube channel and emailed to you within a few days. We will see our lovely team of Canva moderators helping me to answer all the questions as we go through today's webinar. For any questions that you may have, and please, we'd love to see them, use the Q&A box so we can make sure the team of moderators are able to answer all your questions. If you don't already have a Canva education account, you will see a link in our chat and hopefully you can get your whole school district on board. I'm Jonathan and I'm your host for today's session. I'm a K-12 product educator here at Canva and I'm tuning in from Sydney, Australia. Where are you all tuning in from today? I'd love to hear answers, so pop them in the chat. In a past life, I was a high school math teacher, which I'm sure is everyone's favorite subject. And drawing on that experience, I'm so excited to share some amazing tips for how you can use Canva to help you and your students in the classroom. But most importantly, create those memorable learning experiences from wherever you're listening in from today. And by the looks of the chat, looks like there's a lot of different places. Now, we all have different starting points, so we'd love to hear how familiar you are with Canva Education. Let us know in the chat or click on this link and check out our poll responses. Just give you a moment to do that. Okay, it looks like we have a big range of Canva Education users. So really, regardless if this is your first time giving it a go or you're a seasoned power user, I'll be sharing some really practical resources that any of you can use to get started. So let's kick things off with what we'll be covering today. We'll walk through all the new education features, followed by a demo of each one. And then we'll end today's webinar by sharing our best in class teaching resources to help you get ready for day one for a new school year. Firstly, what actually is Canva Education? Well, it's our all-in-one interactive learning platform. No matter what grade or subject you're teaching, from kindergarten to grade 12, science to social studies, we've got you covered. And when I say all-in-one, I mean literally all-in-one. You might have used Canva in the past to make some engaging presentations for your students or even posters for your classroom. But our rich visual suite has so much to offer. So whether it's collaborating on documents, editing videos, or even building websites, we've got you covered. Now, I love statistics as a math teacher. So there's a few here that I want to share. Firstly, thanks to you all, we're used by over 100 million students and teachers across the globe. We have thousands of education-specific templates available. But more importantly, my favorite stat here is that we're 100% free for K-12 schools and districts from wherever you're listening in from today. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world or what budget you have available, you can have access to world-class learning in your classroom. If you'd like more info on signing up, you can find more about this in the resources that we've shared with you. But why is Canva Education free? Well, here at Canva, we believe that education is a human right, and it should be accessible for all. And it's part of Canva's two-step plan to one, build one of the most valuable companies, and two, to do the most good that we can through initiatives like supporting education and nonprofit programs. Another thing worth mentioning is that today's students are stepping into an increasingly digital world where visual communication is needed no matter what industry or role they go into. So it's now more important than ever that we're preparing them for what they need for success. And all of these help empower you to reimagine what learning looks like in your classrooms. And we can't wait to see what you'll do after this webinar. Now, here's the first resource I want to share with you all. It's our Back to School Teacher Toolkit, which is designed by teachers for teachers, packed full of amazing resources to help you get to know your students. Start planning your classes and create engaging lessons this year. We've shared a link to this in the chat, but one thing I'll need to mention is that don't worry if you miss any of the resource links, because at the end of this webinar, we'll include all of these in a follow-up email, including a recording of this as well. So in this section, I'm going to be covering all the new amazing features, followed by a demo of each one. And then we'll be ending today's webinar by sharing our best-in-class teaching resources to help you get ready for day one for a new school year. So what's new in today's session? Well, first we'll start with some new features coming to polls and quizzes, an easy way to engage students and capture feedback. Next, we'll dive into Canva AI, your teaching assistant that can help you and your students generate images and even dynamic widgets. And last but certainly not least, we have a sneak peek at one of our new features, which is sure to inspire your students and is launching just in time for back to school this year. If you're not familiar with polls and quizzes, they are a great way to increase engagement in your students. Whether you're getting students to be active in their learning by responding to a quick check-in or giving them instant feedback on their progress with a short quiz, there's no need to worry about students not putting up their hand for help because they all give students a voice in your classroom. And now with our new updates, you can put polls and quizzes into any design that you create, from whiteboards and even websites. And while sometimes you'll want to collect data about individual results, which you can do, another feature we've added is the ability for you to collect anonymous responses. And this is perfect when you're working with sensitive information like well-being check-ins, where we'll need to keep student data private. That's enough of me talking about it. Let's jump into a live demo. So how am I going to start by adding polls and quizzes into a design? There's a lot of different ways I can do this, but I'm actually looking to build a classroom hub site where I'm going to add in a poll or quiz to check in on my students. I'll share the template with you so you can try and build your own one, but let's go ahead and open this design here. So you can see the classroom hub has a lot of great things in there. So an agenda, some reminders, I can put in class news, I can even put in a student of the week. Something I want to add in though is a daily quiz. So that's something just to check in on their learning to see how my students are going. So how do I add in a quiz? Easiest way is to go to the sidebar. That's where all of your different graphics or images live. And then I'm going to scroll down to polls and quizzes, which you can see here. By selecting See All, I get these different options, and I'm looking for a quiz, so I'm going to select See All here. So again, I've got a lot of different options here. I like this one. It's got 4 different options I can add. And when I'm ready to actually add in a question and change those options, you can see Edit on the toolbar above here. I'll go ahead and select that. And then I can actually start adding in those different questions. So I'll ask my students, got to be a math question, right? Since I'm a math teacher. What is 10% of 100? And so once you've put in your question, you can see that updates live over here, but I'm also going to add in my different quiz options. So I can put some different ones for them to fill out and see which is correct. Now I know the correct answer is going to be 10, but I need to make sure I select that as well. So you can see these 3 dots. I get all these different options. I can move where that option actually is. I could duplicate it. I can delete it, but I'm going to mark that one as the correct one over here. So that's how you add in a quiz. And when your students start responding to these, you'll be able to see all those responses live in the toolbar above over here. So you can see that my response is put in, I get a timestamp, and once my students start putting in their different responses, then I'll be able to see all of that information. Another really quick way you can actually add in a quiz is if you have some content. So for example, if I've got some information on what today's lesson's about, let's say we're looking at science and we're looking at Newton's laws, then I can go ahead and select that text. And there's this icon here which brings up Magic Write. So by selecting that, again, I get all these different options. I'm going to go ahead and select this one, Generate Quiz. Generate Quiz is actually going to read through the content that's there, and it's going to create a quiz based on the text that I've selected. So let me go ahead and select Generate Quiz. And voila, you've got your quiz ready to go to share with your students, all in a flash. Now, the updates to polls and quizzes, not only can I add them into a website, I can also change the privacy of when responders answer a poll or quiz. For example, if I have something that is a bit more sensitive, like a well-being check-in, I can make sure that my students are reassured that that won't be seen by anyone. So let's go ahead and add in a poll. So unlike a quiz, a poll doesn't have a correct or incorrect answer. So think about the types of questions that you may ask where that might be relevant. So if I go to the poll and see all, you can see, for example, a question like this, a simple mood check. Let's go ahead and select that to add it in. I'll resize that design. So now I'm going to go ahead and select edit. And you can see that there's a little tag at the bottom that says your name will be shared. If I want to change that, I'll select edit from the toolbar, settings, and then underneath response privacy, there's a drop down. So I'll go ahead and select do not collect names. So now when my students respond to this poll, let's say I'm just doing okay, I can check my responses and that will actually be anonymous as there. So that's a really great way for students to still respond to a question and teachers to get information while respecting the privacy of those students. And that's polls and quizzes. Next up, let's explore Canva AI. We'll have a look at how simple prompts can help you generate custom images or even create interactive widgets for your students. First up, create an image where you can turn simple prompts into classroom-ready visuals. Now, this is great for creating a stimulus for creative writing, visualizing a complex concept, or even recreating a historical setting. It's a great tool to spark creativity or critical thinking in our students. To start off, I'm actually going to use our student activity cheat sheet for this month, which gives students instructions for how to create About Me posters. This is really useful and I can go ahead and actually share this to my students directly. It gives them instructions on what template they're going to use, how they can start customizing, and even an extension activity for any fast finishes there. So let's go ahead and select the template link. And it's going to take me to a page like this. I can go ahead and start customizing this immediately. So I can go ahead and start putting in my name. We'll just make that text a bit smaller so it fits inside. That looks good. Now I'll go ahead and add an image for myself later. But before I go ahead and share this with my students, I'm going to actually update one of these instructions. Rather than just having students put in their hobbies, I'm going to go ahead and ask them, actually, can you create an AI image with your favorite animal and your hobbies? Let's make it a bit interesting. Again, let's just make sure that that font fits nice and neatly there. So how am I going to create an AI image with my favorite animal and my hobbies? Well, let's go to our Canva homepage over here and I'll select the Canva AI pill. And then I'm going to use its create an image feature. Now, what are our instructions? We have to pick our favorite animal and we have to go ahead and add in our hobbies too. So I'm going to ask for a capybara playing tennis. Let's go ahead and generate that. Can't wait to see what it's got for me. These are really cute. I quite like this one. So now that I know that I like this one, I can go ahead and select the three dots here and then copy the image. And then I'll go back to my About Me poster and then I can paste that in. Let's go ahead and resize it so it fits inside. And we're done. So that's how you can create an AI image and add that in to an About Me poster. This is a really great activity for students to share things about them so you can get to know them, but also so that they can start dabbling in these AI image generation skills, which will set them up for success when they're looking at exploring creativity later on throughout the school year. Now, we introduced this feature to you last webinar, but it's so popular, I wanted to dive a bit deeper into exploring it. With Canva Code, you can build interactive and adaptable instructional materials, revision games for your students, or even apps or widgets for your classroom. If you can dream it, you can build it. One tip I want to share with you is that the more detailed the prompt, the better your result is going to be. How should I start? Well, I always start with what I want Canva Code to do. I want it to create something, and I do love it to be interactive. And in this structure, we're going to start with what you're looking to make. So it could be a game, a tool, or a timeline. And then what do you want students to learn about? Maybe it's a particular topic like history, or maybe you should go more specific and think about a particular time or a particular era. And of course, the more detailed your prompt, the better the results you're going to get. If you include in what grade your students are, whether they're learning something for the first time, whether they're reviewing it, and you can even add in some visual cues for what you want the final result to look like. It's so easy to turn simple prompts into classroom-ready resources with Canva AI. Now, you've heard me talking about it. Why don't we see it in action? Again, the best way to learn how to do something is by doing it. Let me show you how we can create widgets for Canva Code as we get ready for the start of the school year. So how do I go ahead and start using Canva Code? Well, let's go to Canva AI over here, and then I'm going to start with code for me. Now, remember, when I'm creating an idea, I want it to be as specific as possible. And I'm thinking what's something that would be good for the start of the school year? I'm thinking maybe like a game and maybe something about students' learning styles. So I want to create a this or that type icebreaker game where my students reflect on how they like to learn and get a classroom persona. And because we want to make this very visual, let's add some emojis too. So here's my prompt. I'm going to have my students go ahead and answer some questions. And at the end, they're going to get a classroom persona. Let's see what we get. It's going to go ahead and take my prompt and it's going to go ahead and start creating using HTML and CSS a nice little quiz for my students to go ahead and respond to. All right, here we go. So you can see it's gone ahead and generated a learning style discovery, and I'll get a classroom persona at the end. And I've got some questions here, and on the left side, it's given me a bit of an explanation of what's going on. So it's an icebreaker game, and there are some personas that I can get at the end. Do you want to see how it works? Well, let's go ahead and see. When learning something new, I definitely like to read it first. In group projects, I like to collaborate and discuss ideas. I understand concepts better when I can definitely experiment hands-on. My ideal study environment is definitely bustling with a lot of background noise. When solving problems, I usually go with my gut. I remember information best when I talk about it with others or write notes and summaries. Yeah, I think talk about it with others. My favorite type of assignments is definitely creative projects and presentations. And when I'm confused, I prefer to actually figure it out on my own first. Okay, great. So you can see that I have now got my classroom persona. My students can go ahead and get that themselves when I share it with them. Something that you might be interested in as well, if you're a computer science teacher or you're just interested in learning more about HTML and CSS, you can actually show the code and see how that's been built by toggling this option at the top here. Now, Canva AI is not only going to create that, it can help you ideate as well. So for my next prompt, I can ask it, what are some other things I can include here? And let's see what it has for us. So this isn't going to go ahead and generate anything yet, but it's just suggesting some additions that it could give. Oh, I quite like this one here. This one says, suggest helpful classroom jobs based on their persona. Yeah, let's go ahead and ask Canva Code to do that. So add classroom roles based on their persona. And that's going to go ahead and add that in for my students. So this time when I go ahead and do the quiz, I'll just select some different responses. You can see at the end, it's given me some perfect classroom roles for my students to see what they might be more aligned to given their learning styles. So that's how you can use Canva Code to create a nice little icebreaker game for your students for back to school this year. If you're looking for more ways to get started with Canva AI or polls and quizzes, take a look at our template collections here. They're a great way to get started with seeing how these can naturally fit into your lessons. We've got templates for all subject areas and grade levels, and they've been prepared for you to get started using today. Now, I said I have a sneak peek at a new feature we'll be releasing. But before I do that, let me set the scene for you. Back when I was in the classroom, I was always searching endlessly for the right resource. Some I found had the right idea, but weren't quite exactly what I was looking for. I also struggled with engaging my students, and I felt that they were quite passive in their learning. And most importantly, no students jump out of their seats when they hear that tests or assessments are coming along. But how can we prepare students for challenges beyond that and what skills they'll need? So let's go from all of those to creating a world where we can walk into classrooms and have personalized learning experiences with a single prompt, where we can foster creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration. And now we're no longer just looking at assessments, we're actually creating innovation hubs where students are going to be presented with all the skills they'll need for the future. Introducing, here's my drum roll, magic activities. We just had to do a little celebration. Activities that inspire, created in seconds. We know teachers are yearning for more time in the classroom. And now, with Magic Activities, you can save time in the creation phase and spend more time where it counts with your students. On top of that, the activities that we create are personalized according to your prompt. So whether you want your students to compare and contrast different chemical and physical changes in the science lab, or investigate immigrant experiences in your history class, Magic Activities places your students firmly at the center of learning and allows them to be active participants. When Magic Activities creates an activity based on your prompt, you'll be able to select the learning purpose, maybe looking at analyzing some evidence or creating and developing an original idea. Once your activity is created, you always have full control to personalize even further by adding in graphics, elements, or even using our AI-powered tools to differentiate content. Now, I've talked a lot about how this works. Why don't I just show you? For this next live demo, I can't wait to show you how we'll create student-led tasks with Magic Activities. Let's jump into it. So how do I get started with Magic Activities? Well, starting from my Canva homepage over here, I'm going to go ahead and select classwork on the side. And you can see the first thing that pops up will be Magic Activities. And you can see it looks very familiar to a lot of the other Canva AI prompting tools that you might have used in the past. You've got a place where you'll select your prompt, but there's also this different information for your grade and what subject you teach, and even your learning purpose. So all of this information is going to help shape the perfect activity tailored for your students. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, wow, okay, there's a lot to take in here, we actually have a lot of these inspiration tiles that you can go ahead and see and get started. Just try something that might work for your students just to see what is possible. So I'm actually going to start with one of those today. I'm going to start with, let's say, one of these activities looks really good. So this one is monarchy versus democracy, comparing government systems. Quite like that one. You can see when I select that, it actually will put in all of my prompts that I need. And it's actually automatically filled in what grade I'm teaching, what subject area, and what learning purpose I want. If you're not a middle grade teacher, then you can go ahead and change those settings there, but I'm going to leave them as it is for now. Well, let's go ahead and generate that. As that's generating, I want to be thinking, what are my learning objectives and what's the actual activity I'd like them to generate? So the first step is let's make sure that that's read and interpreted correctly. So students were able to compare and contrast the structures, decision-making processes, and citizen roles in monarchy and democracy by analyzing their similarities and differences and evaluating their impact on daily life. That's exactly what I was looking for, actually. And now in this next part, I'll select the activities you'd like to generate. You can select one, you can select all three, but I really like the look of this Venn diagram activity. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one there. Once you're happy with that, you can go ahead and generate your activities. All right, now that that's generated, I can go ahead and select open activities here. All right, so our student-led activities have been generated now. So I can't wait to dive in and show you what's going on. There's a lot of different components, so let me break it down for you. This is a whiteboard that your students will be able to work through, and after they've learnt about the topic of monarchy and democracy in your history class, then you can go ahead and assign this activity for them to complete and really dive deep into this topic. There's a lot of different parts here, so let's just start zooming in. The first thing you'll notice is at the top here, there is this teacher guide. So this tells you everything that you need to know about the activity, how to use it, and it's even got some helpful features here that I'm going to go ahead and try. So for example, anytime something has been generated by AI, I want to make sure I can check it. I can actually add my own resources, and I can even add images using Magic Media. Before you share this with your students, this teacher guide is just for the teachers, so we don't need that afterwards, so we can go ahead and delete that later. So in this next section, this is what your students will see when they start completing this activity. So they've got a title for what the activity is, they've got a bit of an overview, and they'll know their activity goals. So we're looking at creating monarchy and democracy Venn diagrams and comparing the similarities and differences. There's even a little fun fact for them to look at. The first tip that I was given was I can actually use Magic Write to edit any of the text content that's there. So for example, in this section here, by selecting the text and looking at the Magic Write symbol over here, I can go ahead and select that, and I'll generate some more text by select continue writing. You can see it's generated quite a lot there. So I go ahead and insert that in, and then I'll just modify the text so it all fits inside, and that looks really good. Now, the next part is the compare and contrast activity. So where students actually look at the similarities and differences. And our students will read through the instructions first. So it says drag each sticky note to show where it belongs on the Venn chart. And then they can add their own ideas by using the S key to add a new sticky note or even the draw tool. And so there's some other tips if your students aren't familiar with Canva on how to use it, and just some reminders about some of the content that we have. So you can see it's generated some ideas for my students to start sorting. But the thing that I love is it's actually given them some examples of what they can look to as exemplars. So for example, a king or queen becomes a ruler because of their family. That definitely sits under the monarchy example. Whereas citizens can vote and run for government jobs, well, that's a democracy, isn't it? And so if I was a student, I'd go ahead and read through some of these ideas, and I could say like, oh, this one here, people who have rules to follow and leaders who help make decisions. Well, that actually kind of sits in both. So I could put that in between there. It also gives me the opportunity to add in my own ideas here. So I could write something of my own, an original idea, and then see where it fits in this compare and contrast Venn diagram section. Once I've done all that, then I would progress to the next one. And this is one I really love because it allows me to think and share. And so again, if I'm a student, I'd go ahead and read through the instructions over here. So it says, read each question below and add your sticky notes to show your thoughts. And we have sample ideas again. And when I finish them, I can summarize that in the sentence box. So I'll go ahead and read the instructions here. So the first thing I have to do is, what did you notice? And you notice that sometimes the leaders change a lot. So that could be an observation that you make, but then your students would make their own observations about the different points that are there. And what are you curious about? Maybe a student could be curious and add their own idea, like how long could a leader stay in power for? That would be something that you could add in. And so there's a few other questions that your students would go ahead and look at. For example, what is an advantage or disadvantage of living under each government type? So it allows them to think critically about the topic there. And then they're going to go ahead and summarize all their findings in this section. So that is how we can create student-led tasks with Magic Activities. We started with a single prompt, and it's given me a personalized lesson for my students that I can go ahead and customize and share. Speaking of sharing, you're probably wondering, how do I actually go ahead and do that? Well, let me show you. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead, and if I read my teacher guide, actually, it tells me in this section to assign the template, we'll select the assign in the upper right corner of the edit view, and then share the generated link with the class so that students can open and work on their own copy. So let's go ahead and select the assign button there. And if I've selected my classes in Canva, I can actually go ahead and assign that through there. But I'm going to click my share link option. And this is really good because if I haven't set up my classes yet in Canva, or if I'm using a different learning management system, you can go ahead and share that link really easily. So let's select that. So I can go ahead and paste that in. Another really great option is that you can not only share the link, but you can actually get an assignment code. So by selecting that, what that means is that students who, again, if I haven't set up the classes, they can go ahead to this link here and then put in this code, and that will automatically assign that to them. So a really easy way for them to get started. And that's how we can create student-led activities with Magic Activities. Now I know what you're thinking. Jonathan, what if I'm an English teacher or I teach science or you haven't even mentioned my subject? As much as I'd love to showcase what Magic Activities can create for all subject areas, we could be here for hours. But you know what? Just because I'm so excited to showcase this with you, I want to sneak in just one more example. Before we do that though, I do want to share with you some tips on how you can actually use prompting with Magic Activities really well. We've created this prompt like a pro formula that you can get started with to generate your own activities. Every prompt should start with students will be able to, and then you want to put in a learning verb. So maybe they're investigating, maybe they're researching, exploring, or comparing, like we just looked at. And then you want to put in a specific topic. So be specific with these. So maybe you're looking at Jekyll's character development in a text, or the ancient Egyptian civilizations, the impact of health pandemics, or comparing energy sources that are renewable. So there's all these different topics and purposes that we can look at, but it's always important to follow this structure here. So why don't we go ahead and try that prompt like a pro formula now. So using my prompt like a pro formula, remember we always start with students will be able to. Okay, now I need to think about what they're actually going to be doing. So I want them to be doing a cross-curricular project. And let's make it something related to sustainability this time. So students will be able to design an innovative solution to stop littering. And what else do we want them to consider? Well, maybe say, well, which considers environmental impacts, cost, and sustainability. All right, that's looking good. I've typed in my prompts. Now I need to fill out this information here. So what grade are we looking at? Well, let's look at middle school. I'm looking at sixth grade. What subject area? Probably environmental science makes the most sense. And what's the learning purpose? Well, because they're designing an innovative solution, out of all of these, they're going to be developing something original themselves. Let's go ahead and generate. So as this is thinking, remember, you want to make sure you check the learning objectives. That looks really good. And then we can select the activities we'd like to generate. I'm thinking this one is what I'm looking for. So you can see the title of the activity there, and you can see a bit of a brief description. So let's go ahead and generate. All right, that's ready to go. So let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, so let's take a look at what Magic Activities has generated for us. So we were looking at a solution for a sustainability problem about littering. And you can see it's got some familiar components. We've got that teacher guide from last time. We've got our introduction section. We've got some initial information. And this is where all of my student work is going to go. They're going to look at completing the double diamond framework to plan and build a prototype and even get some peer feedback at the end. So let me just zoom in again. So we've got that teacher guide, which gives us some explanations on different parts I can use, but I'll delete that one because I don't need that when I assign it to my students. And then I've got some activity goals for my students, what they're going to be doing initially. This is what I really love. It's got a bit of a stimulus, so it gets them thinking about what they might have learned previously and sets the scene and gives them some context. I can actually go ahead and actually add an image as well. So remember, everything in Canva lives in the sidebar here. So if I want to look at a image related to the playground that they're going to be cleaning up, this one's quite a nice image. I can go ahead and select that image and then drag it into the frame, and it inserts it in automatically, nice and neatly there. So remember, you've got your student instructions on the left side in these gray boxes. So students are going to start with some research, pick a little problem, think up ways to fix it, and then choose the best solution. So if you haven't used the double diamond framework before, that's totally okay. You can go ahead and it gives them some prompting solutions and some exemplars for students to read through and be inspired by. For example, the first stage is to discover. So they're going to research about the topic and share their findings. For example, the park's only trash bin is broken and far away from the soccer field, which is a problem. And then next, students are going to define the challenge that needs to be solved. So, for example, people leave trash because the bins are too far or broken. Once they've done all of that, then they move on to the develop and deliver stage. So maybe thinking about what are some of the solutions they could be thinking of and how do they actually deliver it in a practical way? Like how much does it cost or how long it would take? Those are some things that this framework allows your students to think of. Once they've actually set the scene and the foundation, then they can actually build out that prototype. So again, reading my instructions, students will map out a solution by choosing an idea, thinking about what parts need to be in it. And again, we've got some exemplars that we can have a look at, but we'll go ahead and complete that as a student and submit that so that we can actually create our final prototype. And so this is where students actually bring their ideas to life and identify all the different parts of how it actually solves the problem of littering. And this is the part that I love. Students will actually also have an opportunity to share this with their peers. So it gives them a bit of a little framework as well for how they can actually do that. For example, students can talk about what they might like about someone else's idea, maybe what they wish that could be changed or improved, and maybe some questions that they still might have about this particular prototype. So that's how we can create student-led tasks using magic activities. It's got all those topics related to communication, creative thinking, problem solving, even teamwork, and it's a cross-curricular project. I can't wait for you to try it at the beginning of the school year. Now, hopefully that's gotten your creative juices flowing for how you might be able to use magic activities yourself in your classrooms. If you're looking for more inspiration, you can take a look at some of these that our teachers love, but our students love even more. So, are you ready to get started? You can actually sign up to the Magic Activities beta today. All you need to do is go to the link that we've just shared, fill out some information for your teaching context, and you can start creating inspiring activities for your students as you get ready for back to school. And we've just covered the tip of the iceberg with what you can do with our newest features. We can't wait to hear what you and your students will create. Speaking of which, here are some amazing Canva ideas we've spotted on socials. Take a look at this Canva Code widget from Paul, which allows students to see live musical sounds come to life on a digital keyboard. Keystrokes, speed settings, points, it's got it all. What about bringing stories to life? Check out this graphic novel project students did in Miss Allen's class, which combined generative AI, storyboarding, and literacy skills. To be honest, I wish I could have been in that class to try that. Whew, that was a lot. But that's just scratching the surface of what's new in Canva Education. Now, I did promise some resources that would help you get ready for day one of school this year. So let me show you what we prepared. I did share this one earlier, but our back to school toolkit is too good to not share again. It's jam-packed full of goodies like our AI classroom guide, template collections, and so much more as well. Like our latest course from Design School on how to use Canva Code for your classroom. Our amazing product educator, Ellie, will take you through all the tips and tricks you need to create interactive, engaging, and personalized digital tools for both teachers and students. But why should the learning stop there? Take a look at our revamped Design School 2.0 site to see courses, lessons, and cheat sheets, and so much more. If you missed any of our previous What's New webinars, make sure you catch up on them over here. And of course, we want you to join and connect with educators all around the world through our different communities. Our Facebook communities are just always buzzing with some great ideas, and I'm always so inspired for myself when I take a look at what people are actually sharing. Or you can follow us on X at Canva Edu. The community team actually have some special content with lots of real life examples from teachers around the world of how they're using Canva education in their classrooms. So stay tuned for that. If you haven't got Canva in your school or district, what are you waiting for? Make sure to check out this link so that we can get all your teachers and students access to world-class learning, 100% completely free. Just a reminder again that you'll get access to all of the recordings and resources in an email shortly after this, so to keep a lookout for that. And that's all from me. I'm Jonathan, a product educator here at Canva, and it's been such a joy sharing these tips and tricks with all of you. I can't wait to see what you'll all design. Catch you in the next one.